A name is written, and somewhere within the vast silence of the Forbidden City, a door opens. Footsteps move across stone corridors that were never meant to echo without purpose. It is night. The palace appears still. Yet behind that stillness, a system is already moving with quiet precision. The emperor has made his selection. Records from the Qing dynasty confirm that moments like this were never treated as private in the modern sense. Eunuchs documented which consort was summoned. Attendants escorted her through guarded passageways. Each movement unfolded within procedures preserved in palace regulations and court records. The encounter carried weight far beyond the room itself. If a child was conceived, that child could one day inherit the empire. Yet when the night ended, something followed that feels unexpectedly cold. The emperor did not remain. He returned to his own chambers, not because of impulse, but because of structure. Historical evidence drawn from Qing household regulations and later analysis suggests that the emperor's presence within a consort's residence was temporary, carefully limited, and politically controlled. In a palace built to express absolute authority, even the emperor followed rules inside his most intimate moments. History preserves the ritual. It does not always explain the fear behind it. This is royal history with Ruth, and this is how the Qing court extended control deep into the private life of the emperor himself, creating a world where intimacy, hierarchy, and survival became impossible to separate. The inner court was built for control. The Forbidden City was never designed simply as a royal home. It was designed to enforce order. Completed during the Ming Dynasty in the early 15th century and later occupied by the Qing rulers from 1644 until 1911, the palace divided imperial life into carefully controlled spaces. The outer court handled governance and ceremony. The inner court housed the emperor's family, consorts, attendants, and the deeply private machinery surrounding succession. That separation was not symbolic, it was enforced. Access to the inner court remained tightly restricted. Eunuchs served as the primary male presence within its walls. Ministers, officials, princes, and even the emperor's adult sons could not move freely through these spaces. Separation created control, and control protected the dynasty. Within this enclosed world, hierarchy defined everything. Qing palace archives and historical studies confirm an intricate ranking system for imperial women. At the top stood the empress. Beneath her existed multiple layers of consorts, each governed by precise rules surrounding residence, ceremonial privilege, income, clothing, and attendance. This was not an informal household. It was an institution tied directly to governance itself. Women entered the palace through selection systems connected to the banner structure supporting Qing rule. Marriage and concubinage reinforced alliances among elite Manchu families and tied the emperor's household directly to the political foundation of the dynasty. From the very beginning, intimacy existed inside a political system, and within such a system, even affection became dangerous. The selection was never truly private. The emperor did not simply wander through the palace guided by desire alone. Historical evidence suggests that access to him followed organized procedure. Eunuchs supervised movement throughout the inner court and ensured that ritual remained intact at every stage. When a consort was summoned, she did not casually walk to the emperor's residence. Accounts connected to Qing palace practice describe women being transported in covered sedan chairs through guarded corridors late at night, preserving both secrecy and ceremonial order. Nothing inside the palace operated casually. Meals followed protocol, clothing followed protocol, ceremonies followed protocol, even silence followed protocol. Within that world, intimacy could never become entirely spontaneous. Some memoirs written by former palace eunuchs after the fall of the Qing dynasty describe additional procedures connected to record keeping, fertility, and pregnancy. Historians approach parts of these memoirs carefully because not every detail can be confirmed against surviving archival material. What remains consistently supported, however, is this: the emperor's private life was supervised, it was guided, it was documented, and honestly, that sounds like one of the least relaxing environments imaginable. The rule that limited the emperor. Then came the rule that shaped the meaning of the entire encounter. The emperor did not stay. After intimacy, he returned to his own residence. At first glance, the practice seems surprisingly minor, yet inside the Qing court, its implications ran deep. The emperor's presence carried enormous political significance. If he remained too closely associated with one consort, visible favor could begin shifting influence within the inner court itself. And influence inside imperial households rarely stayed personal for long. A favored consort could strengthen her own position. Her family could gain status, her allies could gain confidence. Most importantly, her son could gain advantage within future succession struggles. The rule limiting the emperor's presence helped reduce that danger. No consort could openly claim permanent closeness. No relationship could visibly dominate the balance of the palace. The emperor remained separate. He did not belong emotionally to the household around him. He belonged to the throne. Power surrounded him. Restriction followed closely behind. Succession turned intimacy into politics. Every child born within the palace carried political consequence. The Qing dynasty did not follow strict primogeniture, meaning the eldest son did not automatically inherit the throne. The emperor possessed authority to choose among his sons, creating flexibility but also deep uncertainty. The reign of the Kangxi emperor revealed how dangerous succession could become. His sons competed intensely for influence. Officials aligned themselves with different princes. Alliances formed quietly across court networks. The struggle became so severe that later emperors attempted reforms to reduce open conflict. During the reigns of the Yongzheng and Qianlong emperors, a system emerged in which the emperor secretly placed the name of his chosen successor inside a sealed container within the palace. The intention was simple: reduce factional warfare, reduce manipulation, reduce chaos. Yet uncertainty never disappeared entirely. Maternal influence still mattered. A consort enjoying unusual closeness to the emperor could strengthen her own position and potentially that of her son. The bedroom rule therefore served another purpose beyond ritual. It reduced visible attachment. What appears personal from the outside was deeply political within the palace itself. The future of the empire could begin inside a single room. Life inside the palace system. For the women of the imperial harem, life unfolded inside boundaries that rarely moved. Many entered the palace as teenagers through highly structured selection systems connected to elite Manchu families. Once inside, leaving was uncommon. The inner court became their entire world. Palace archives preserve extraordinary details surrounding rank, childbirth, promotion, ceremony, and death. The records track structure with remarkable precision. What they rarely record is emotion. That silence matters. The documents tell historians where women lived. They tell historians what titles they held. They tell historians when they gave birth or died. But the emotional reality behind those lives often remains hidden. What can be confirmed is restriction. Movement remained controlled. Contact with family outside the palace remained limited. Advancement depended heavily upon imperial favor, and childbirth. If a consort produced a son, her position could rise dramatically, yet favor inside the palace remained unstable by design. The emperor's time was divided, his access was regulated, his presence remained temporary. No woman could fully rely upon permanence. The palace looked magnificent from the outside. Inside, it could become psychologically suffocating, the empress and the balance of power. At the center of this hierarchy stood the empress. She supervised ceremonial life within the inner court and maintained internal structure among the imperial women. Although her authority never surpassed the emperor's, her role carried enormous significance within palace operations. The emperor's required separation from consorts reinforced her position. No individual woman could displace the empress purely through proximity alone, at least not easily. Yet palace history repeatedly proved that ambition could still find openings. Empress Dowager Cixi entered the palace during the reign of the Xianfeng Emperor as a lower-ranked consort. After giving birth to his son, her status rose significantly. When that son inherited the throne, she eventually governed as regent and became one of the most powerful political figures in late Qing history. Historians continue debating aspects of her rule and influence. What remains beyond dispute is this: the palace rules shaped behavior. They did not eliminate ambition or survival instinct. The emperor was powerful but never free. Imperial China placed enormous emphasis on hierarchy and order, shaped heavily through Confucian political philosophy. The emperor ruled as the son of heaven. His authority carried cosmic meaning as well as political power. The organization of the palace mirrored the organization of the empire itself. Distance reinforced authority, ritual reinforced hierarchy, structure reinforced legitimacy. The bedroom rules fit naturally into this system. The emperor could not appear emotionally dependent upon any individual woman because he symbolized something larger than himself. He represented the state. Yet there is something quietly tragic hidden inside that reality. The emperor possessed extraordinary authority over millions of people, but within the walls of his own palace, his movements, routines, relationships, and even intimacy operated within systems built long before he entered the throne room. Absolute power did not always produce personal freedom. Sometimes it produced isolation instead. Did the system actually work? In some ways, yes. The Qing dynasty ruled China for nearly 3 centuries, maintaining long periods of political stability and territorial expansion. Palace structure formed part of that stability, but no rule could fully remove the dangers surrounding succession and power. The conflict among the sons of the Kangxi emperor proved that rivalry endured despite elaborate systems of control. Court factions still formed, ambition still survived, political tension still entered the inner court. The rules reduced risk. They did not erase human nature. When the Qing dynasty finally collapsed in 1911, its fall came through a combination of internal rebellion, foreign intervention, economic pressure, military weakness, and demands for reform. The bedroom rule could not prevent that outcome, but it reveals something important about Imperial China. Even the most private parts of royal life became instruments of statecraft. Nothing remained untouched by politics, not even love. The rule requiring the emperor to return to his own chambers after intimacy appears simple on the surface. Inside the Qing court, it carried far greater meaning. Historical evidence drawn from palace regulations, court structure, and surviving records shows that the imperial household operated less like a family home and more like a political institution designed to manage risk. Hierarchy shaped intimacy, distance shaped authority, control shaped survival. The emperor stood above the empire. Yet even he lived inside systems that constrained him. That may be the strangest contradiction at the center of imperial power. Not that emperors possessed enormous control, but that even at the height of absolute authority, somebody was always recording the details. And somewhere inside the silence of the Forbidden City, another door was always waiting to open. Do you think rules like this strengthen the dynasty or quietly reveal how fragile succession truly was? And which seems more difficult to you, lacking power entirely or possessing immense power while never truly living freely? History rarely leaves easy answers behind. I would genuinely love to hear your thoughts on this. And despite all these strict rules, some figures inside the palace still managed to reshape the empire itself. Another royal story shaped by ambition, survival, and hidden power is already waiting for you on screen now.